This is video 2 of this 2-part advanced bench joinery setting out half-scale model kite winder staircase, looking particularly in more detail at step 1, determine the rise and the going. The building regulations will lay out all of our requirements. We'll see, for example, that we're operating on a private stair. We'll see that the maximum rise is 220 millimeters and the minimum going is 220 millimeters. We'll see that the maximum pitch is 42 degrees and that twice the rise plus a going must be added to become between 550 and 700 millimeters. This is known as the 2R plus G rule. Working out the rise and the going means revisiting triangle calculations. As we've discussed in the past, start with a known 3-4-5 right angle triangle to practice your sine, cosine and tangent functions before you start working on your stair calculations. Here we'll use tan because we know the opposite and adjacent sides of our 3-4-5 practice triangle. If I draw out the triangle full size, 400 millimeters, 300 millimeters and a 500 millimeters hypotenuse, then we'll see and we know that the opposite angle opposite to the hypotenuse is 90 degrees. From this we can calculate that the tan is equal to the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. So the tan of the angle is equal to 300 divided by 400 or 0.75. And if we use tan or tan minus 1 on your calculator, then tan minus 1 of 0.75 is 36.869 or 36.9 degrees. You can calculate the other angle for practice. Now we need to calculate the rise and the going. Remember, we're making a half-scale model, so we'll double up the values here, but later we'll halve them back again to get them ready for our model. The first thing you need is a story rod, the distance from the finished floor level to the finished floor level. Be careful that you have got the finished floor level of the ground floor, particularly if it's a concrete floor, because there might be a screed and tiles to be added on that floor. Traditionally, this story rod would be marked off with dividers to divide up exactly how many steps you've got. In the first instance, if I divide it up by the maximum rise of 220 millimeters, I'll get 7.36 risers. Well, I can't have 0.36 of a riser, so there must be 8 steps in this flight of stairs, 1620 story rod height. 1620 divided by 8 steps gives me a maximum step height of 202.5 millimeters. That divides exactly into our 1620 millimeters. You can confirm this by stepping it out on your story rod with a pair of dividers to make sure that it steps out exactly. If you haven't got a story rod, you could step it out on your drawing or on a full-size board. 202.5, 202.5, 202.5. You step it out with dividers, you can stick it up. If you try stepping it out with a ruler, you'll get some kind of error. And there we go, 8 steps equally divides into our 16.20 height. If you're including these details on a drawing for building control, then you'll need to show them these calculations. I can use this 202.5 to work out my going. If I know that the angle is maximum 42 degrees, then the going is 202.5 divided by the tangent of 42 degrees, which will give me 224.9 minimum going. If I do the 2R plus G check on that, I get 629 or 630 millimeters, which is greater than 550 and less than 700. So that would be a working example for our stairs which have a rise of 1620 millimeters. But I'm going to add a complication. because I want you to build in a bull nose step. I want you to show me that you've got the knowledge and the skill to do the setting out, to do the manufacture and fitting of that bull nose step at the bottom of that flight of stairs. So now we've got 9 steps in our flight. So that's a different calculation. We take 1620 and divide it by 9. That gives me 180mm rise. Later, we'll half scale that, and that's why you've been setting out with a 90mm rise. Let's have a look at the calculations for that, something that you can include on your setting out, so that I can show it to the assessor, so that he'll know you know what you're doing. So if I've got a rise of 180mm, and I step it out here full size on my drawing, then that gives me the opposite side of 180mm. If I take the adjacent side, or the going, if I take the minimum of 220mm, then I can take a tangent of the angle 180 by 220, tangent of angle 0.818181, reverse tan, gives me 39.3 degrees. 2r plus g gives me 580, which is greater than 550, less than 700. So that would be the working out that you'd include on my drawing, so that you can show the assessor we know what we're doing. If you're in the workshop, you might want to include the printout from the PSION Organiser to also show that you can use the calculator to do it. So there are some values in here, so we'll just put a new value in of 1620mm for our story rod, and that shows us, as we know, 8 steps, 202.5mm for the step rise. If I come out of that and we have a look at the going, the going, we've actually got a value in here. So if we go back to the going and we change the value, and we put in a step going of our 225mm, which is what the calculator showed we needed, 225, and we have a look at the values. You can print them using the comms link, but we'll just have a look at them here. And we've got 202.5, 225. We can come down and we'll see 8 steps, 2r plus g at 630, and just less than 42 degrees, 41.9 degrees. So that we could print that, and you could put that in your portfolio, and that would show an assessor that you can use the Organiser stir calculator. But it's not exact for our stirs, because we added a step, didn't we? So let's just force in the 180mm rise, and then we'll force in the 220mm going, which is the minimum going we can use on a flight of stairs. So we'll change the value that's in there, and we'll put in a new step going of 220mm. And we can look at those values, and you could print these values and show the assessor that you know what you're doing. That gives me 582r plus g, and just over 39.28 or 39.3 degrees that we know. Those of you that are not in the workshop and are self-isolating or working from home, you can use the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet stir calculator. When you've got it downloaded and running, make sure you choose the right tab. We're not using general access stirs or the utility stirs. We'll be using private stirs. Don't forget that in the general access stirs, that includes schools, and all the schools have got the fixed rise and fixed going, so they're all the same. And we're not using utility stirs. That's boiler houses and that kind of staircase. We're in a domestic property, so we're using private stirs. And if we give this a story rod height of 1620, and then we give it a step going of the minimum step going was 220. So if we give this a minimum step going of 220, We can't use those values because it's greater than 42 degrees, but we knew that because we're going to have not 8 steps, we're going to have 9 steps. So let's take out the story rod height of 1620 and let's give it a fixed step height of 180, which is twice 90, and that gives us our 580 and 39.3 degrees. Don't forget, you can include those with your portfolio stuff. That'll give the assessor something to look into. So that's it for now. Good luck. I'm looking forward to seeing you setting out soon.